All right, and we're back with Seto Akiyama. Akiyama has first turn. This is the close, same plus plus wall combo. We see a relatively weak corner here. I should note there are relatively few decks, so you might be able to, and Vid did, we saw, get a read on what cards turds might have. We should bring open because obviously closed is more difficult to do anything remotely interesting in the commentary booth for. So we should I'll bring up on the side what the stips are so we can talk a little about them and think about what cards people might have. I feel like no 8/8 corners were allowed, but this kind of card is. And Vid mentioned he thought turds could be using it, though turds ended up not using it. But interesting to see it played here. I would say this is a first turn advantage rule set, despite turds winning on second turn, and despite, in my opinion, Vid playing very well. All right, no 8/8 6s. Okay, max of two 8/8 corners. So there is a limitation on 8/8 corners, but this 8/8 does not fit that. Max of two 8/6/6/5s or 8/6/6/4s. That doesn't hit 8/6/6/3s, but I think most of those are level 6, if not all, so that's probably just, essentially, that's a max of two 8/6/6s. Um, so I guess, no, 8/6/6/2s are all level 6. Anyhow, no rares and no 8/7/6/4s. Okay, so what kind of cards are we likely to see? We could see two 8/8s, two 8/6/6s, and another card. We could see 7/7/5/5s. Those are pretty good, and I would guess Seto likes them, though I could be completely wrong. Obviously, I do not understand his play very well. What else could we see? 8/6/5/4s? Pretty clumsy. 8/7/5/4s is probably pretty appealing. I think I would be likely to run just a lot of 8/7/5/4s, maybe all five. Now that might be too predictable, and actually that probably isn't an option because we do have very limited decks. So I would run some 8/7/5/4s and then fill in other strengths with cards I liked, I think. They, on the other hand, are much more committed to the 8/8s, which also seems fine. Now, I've been calling Seto good at the weak corner. Now he is playing the weak side. Uh, I would just expect him to have some funky synergies off this. Like, obviously, he has to have some recapture in 9, but maybe he is 8/5/8/1 as well, and just that's going to slide somewhere nicely around this. I have no idea. Uh, in a closed game, you kind of have a few things you can do here. You can take a gamble. You can say, I'm going to play in 7 with an 8 facing out. Now, we saw in the last game between Turds and Vid that both players use 6/4/6/8. So that seems to me a card that like we should definitely keep in mind. I know it's available in the decks, but 6/8/6/4 probably isn't. We know 5/7/5/7 is available, but I don't think 7/5/7/5 is. So yeah, one thing you could do is go in 7. Here he's doing it while sliding, and we can see 6/4/6/8 is a card people are running. So he has potential to combo it back if need be. He probably has coverage of any card in 9 via 6. 6/4/6/8 gave coverage, but lots of cards will give some coverage there. Yeah. I would be uncomfortable here as Seto. I would, it's not saying much to say I would rather be first turn and closed, but I would definitely rather be on first turn here. What I was going to say was I think if you're Akiyama on that move 3 there, you either commit to some gamble in a square like 7, which is what we saw. When I say gamble, that's sort of unfair. Some kind of calculated risk. Or you play a standard structural move in 1 or 5. Given that you've used an up-down card, I think it's very interesting that Seto went an 8, a move likely to make the game up-down when you have already shown you have given up up-down power. And Seto is sort of saying you don't have redundancy. You just used your card for 6. I'm now going to attack the card in 3. But what I was trying to say was Akiyama's main structural moves. He has the moves in 7, but he also has options in 1 or 5. And I was going to say I thought 1 made more sense to me there. That 5 would make the game kind of 2 up down, given the card that's already out of his hand. But, your mileage may vary. Okay, So here, the obvious choice is to go in 5 for the Z. But in general, the Z is better. Like, okay, so first turn is favored almost all the time on average, right? But the Z is better for the person that does not have the card in 5. You want to be the person that can combo through 5, not the person who controls 5. So if I'm Akiyama here, I'm probably looking for a way to play 4 or 6. 1 or 9 is very much a, if they can't take this, I might be in good shape. If they can take it, I better hope they walk into something huge in 5 after they do, and I don't know if they will. But going in 4 or 6, you can set up diagonals and you can do work to start locking in a card. And if you go in 4, even if you overpower the thing in 7, if you land 9 later and combo through, that's fine. So you're not even that worried about combo potential. So I would predict a move in 4 here, though 6 is also very possible. What's interesting is the things Akiyama has said he has, right? Because he's made some declarations. He plays an 8-5-8-1 and 3, he's saying, I have 6. He plays 6-4-6-8 and 7, he's saying, I can combo through 8 from 9. But both of those claims involve 6-4-6-8. Both do. And so we had to have redundancy on both those effects, which is why Seto is really, I think, compellingly making a case of you don't have enough cards to do all this. And so I'm going to attack the things that are difficult for you to do and attack the things that have just come out of your hand. Forced you to have had redundancy on them, or it's very dangerous for you. Now, again, I suspect the players, unlike me, are looking at the cards available because it may turn out that it's just really hard for Akiyama to have these cards. I know once I saw the move, I'm kind of switching, but we're also seeing Akiyama thinking. I expect a move in 4, but I think this game is now, I don't know. Seto's so good. It's so hard to ever pick against him in anything. I still feel like it should be a little bit Akiyama favored, but I think it's really close. And maybe he just has perfect cards. Like maybe he's just finding a win here. Because there's a lot of weak numbers facing out, and if Akiyama has good lock-ins in 4 or 6 that sets up anything and then decent sweepers, the game can be just very close to over in his favor. He goes 5. Oh boy. Okay, that's another card where he's sort of saying, I have this card, because I'm assuming Seto has 6-4-6-8. And if Seto has 6-4-6-8, then the most likely square for 6-4-6-8 to land is 6, probably. And if it goes in 6, then Akiyama really needs to combo back from 9. And what card would combo back from 9? Well, 8-6-5-6 would. We have, as would 6-4-6-8. We have just seen the cards that would do so. General, like, this is close. Also, now Akiyama has used 2 cards. 8-5-8-1 is obviously up-down. 6-4-6-8 is obviously a left-facing card, but also a decent right-side sweeper. 8-6-5-6 is also sort of a, like, up-downish card. Does he have up-down cards left to sweep this endgame? I don't know. I feel like whatever call I make is going to be wrong here. It seems to me the flow of the game is favoring Seto, but I don't know. I'm having trouble placing why I think that, or like it's so easy for Akiyama to land a last turn combo here, or to just and Akiyama just used another card he could have played in 6, and he not only has he used 2 cards that could be recaptures in 6, he also used 2 cards that could have been set up for pluses in 6 in this position. How many cards for 6 can one hand have? I have no idea. Seto goes in 1. Okay, which means Seto didn't have good slides, because the best way to play the structure is generally to slide in 4 or 6. And Akiyama goes 9 very quickly, saying, I have both squares, you're dead. Now, Seto's not dead, because if, well, he's not necessarily dead. If he can play in 4 and just take 7, he's can't lose. But as was proven by a game I played against Delhi in the weekly closed, Delhi played a move very clearly just trying to force a tie, and it turned out I had to walk into combos and captures and was just losing on the spot. And it was very depressing for me. But this happens. So it is entirely possible Seto does not have what he needs. Now, when Seto starts in 1, he's saying his best square is 6, because the most frequent playout is 1, 4, 6, 9. Which means he's not saying his best play is 4, and in fact, he just used a card that could have gone in 4 with the capture and not flipped extra things. There's not much reason to believe he'd have held on to another card that does that. Also, Seto played both 3688, 3686 and 3885, and 6468. So I guess his most likely cards are a corner for 7 and something with some left-facing power. Because 3686 you probably have to assume is his corner for 3. And neither of those cards is necessarily going to be good at playing in 4. So if Seto does have 4, and I'm Seto, I'm probably just taking the tie. You can't do quite the same thing in 6, because if you flip 9 without flipping 5, and they have a combo in 4 that flips 1 and 2 and 3, and maybe 6 as well. So, like, 4 is usually the safe square. Yeah. 5757, that is killer in this endgame. Yeah. So Seto decided he just had to hope Akiyama couldn't flip 3 a third time, but Akiyama could. Every card in Akiyama's hand except 5882. Man. Second turn closed is rough. I liked how Seto played that. Akiyama, he kept combos in 6 and 9. 5882 is a sweeper for 1 and 4. Yeah, this Z made more sense. He had better cards for this Z than I was thinking he would. And meeting 1 and 9 was very strong. It's very hard for Akiyama. Yeah, when we said Seto, it's very hard for Seto. When we said Seto should have a card with left value, I should have thought he's running 6468. They're all running 6468. So I'm guessing Seto's last card is something, like 8754 or something of that ilk that just doesn't have the capture in 4. So if we knew that card and replayed it back, maybe there's something better than his play in 1. But I quite liked how Seto played it. He continually made these challenges of, and I guess he only did this for like 1 turn, but it felt to me like he made these challenges of, and he did this multiple times. Because after 8656, he played with an 8 down. He continually said, whatever card you have just used is the power you're least likely to be able to repeat. Hands are going to try to do a variety of things. They're going to have a variety of stuff covered. And if you have just used something, it makes it significantly less likely than in a vacuum for you to have things covered. Because your opening hand is going to try to have all these different things covered, and there's enough stuff to cover, it's probably going to be one of each. And each time you use something, that gives me info about what you have left. And I think Seto did a really interesting job trying to play against that. And it did not work out here. But it was interesting. I should probably be giving more props to the actual winner of this game, who I think set stuff up really quickly and really quickly identified a very dangerous finish. Also, it's possible that playing 5882 and 9 so quickly tells your opponent you have everything, which you could say is a bad thing, because you could say you don't want your opponent to think that, but I think can be a very useful thing, because it can mean if you are bluffing, it is harder to call that bluff. It doesn't look like if you take 5 minutes to make that move, it looks like, okay, why did it take them so long to figure out there's a hole? What's the hole most likely to be? If you play it quickly, they feel dead. And so if you can play those moves quickly, if you're confident and you figured it out in advance, that can be really strong. So that ties the series 1-1. I really should check out the other open games. The open games I saw were great, really high level. These are 2 of the best players, and I also think they both really care about beating each other, which is often very good for either raising or massively lowering the level. You know, two people that are really invested in general are going to play at a higher level. And then occasionally, I had this when playing chess as like a kid and teenager competitively, was like, if I really hated my opponent, I often kind of imploded out of just like disgust for my opponent and like trying too hard on it. But I don't think that's the case here. I think this is one of those like, these are two players very invested in this match, and it is a very high level match accordingly. Now tied 1-1 and headed towards the open closed. I really don't like it when TTA series are decided by double closed. So if the decider is in closed, I do hope Seto wins. If the decider is in open, I will be happy for whoever takes it. This is my general rule. Obviously, occasionally I have such a strong rooting interest. If they take it in double closed, like I'll, still be delighted for them. But here that is not the case. But it's also, I just want to say, really fun to watch these two play. And yeah, I guess we'll end this video and see shortly if an open closed is happening. Akiyama says in his commentary to the loss in the open, "Meh, what could happen? What could ever happen if I don't check every spot this time?" And that indeed was the game he lost. And he played that move really quickly, which, happens. All right, we'll stop this video here. Fun series. Excited for whoever makes the finals. And excited for whoever they'll face in the finals. Good Final Four.